The dump truck was slamming into the front of my mom's car, my sister inside, a head-on collision, when suddenly my mom looked up and all she saw were the taillights of the dump truck behind her. Welcome to Paranormal Christian. Let's tell stories. I'm so excited to bring this to you today. This is not a ghost story. This is not a demon story. This is not a UFO story. This is a miraculous happening that took place with my mom and my sister many years ago. Now, I live around Farmington, Missouri, and if you're in the local area, you may be familiar with a town about an hour away called Lesterville, Missouri. Lesterville and Centerville and Black, which we're going to be discussing more on Paranormal Christian, as they are considered one of the top areas in the nation for UFO sightings. But that's not what we're talking about today. If you know where Lesterville is, you know that from Farmington, you have to take a highway called N Highway. It's a very, very curvy highway, really more of a road than a highway. It goes past the popular Johnson Shut-In State Park, where people go to swim and to raft and these kinds of things. Anyway, at night, it can be very dangerous to drive. There are some very sharp curves. There are some very quick, steep hills. And if it's raining, then it's really dangerous. One night, my mom and my sister, this has probably been 20 years or more ago now. I'm filming this 2026. May have been even longer because my sister was pretty young at the time. And my mom was driving back at night from my great-grandma's house. My great-grandparents lived in Lesterville. That's where I spent a lot of my time in the summers, growing up on the Black River, fishing and squirrel hunting with my grandfather, things like this. My mom and my sister were driving back from Lesterville. It was in the night, and you have to understand, they've made some improvements on that road in recent years, but there are a few of those curves. I want to call them a bridge. It wasn't much of a bridge, but really tight, narrow areas over small creeks, and there were concrete curbs on the sides. The way they had these set up is that only one car, one vehicle, could go across at a time. You had to pay close attention because of the curves. You would pull up, you would watch very closely. If there was no one else coming, it would be your turn, and you would take that, or the person from the other side, vice versa. On this particular night, as my mom and my sister were traveling, perhaps they were going a little quicker than they should have coming up on that curve. And the biggest problem was the dump truck coming the opposing direction, also moving too fast. They were both coming up on the same little bridge section, the same curve at the same time, with those concrete curbs on the edges. There is only space for one vehicle. There was not enough time for either of them to stop or to change what they were doing. One person would have to take the bridge. The other person would have to run off the road onto the concrete curb, and apparently nobody knew what to do. They're coming quicker and quicker. Of course, everything I'm telling you happens in a few split seconds. Somebody has to make the decision. The headlights of the oncoming dump truck are approaching. I don't know what vehicle my mom was driving at the time, a van, I think. She had a conversion van, and I think that's what she was driving, or maybe a Ford Explorer, depending on the year. And they're coming closer and closer and closer. And finally, at the last minute, my mom didn't know what to do. She closed her eyes and gripped the steering wheel to continue straight. And as the dump truck and the vehicle my mom was driving were to meet, there was no sound. There was no stop. There was no crash. In one moment, my mom opened her eyes again to see what was happening. There was nothing in front of her. She glanced at the rear view mirror, and the taillights of the dump truck were now coming off of the back of her car. And what had happened is that her car and the dump truck had actually gone through each other, as if they had demolecularized and passed through each other, particles passing particles, and re-solidified on the other side. My mom was very shaken. She was very caught off guard, obviously, and was able to drive the rest of the way home. What happened? I believe that God performed a miracle. I believe that God protected everybody involved in that situation. I believe that those vehicles actually passed through each other or teleported at the last moment. I don't know how God did it. All I know is that they did not crash, and they passed through on the same bridge in the same lane at the same time. Have you ever had a miraculous intervention? Have you ever had a time of divine protection when God did the impossible, a situation that you know you shouldn't have been able to get out of, but here you are today, preserved for some reason, preserved for some purpose? I want to hear your story. Would you follow us on the social media platform you're watching right now? Would you tag all of your friends? You might know somebody that's had a similar experience. Would you share this with them? Would you visit paranormalchristian.com? You can message us your stories. You can comment your stories in the feed below, or you can fill out the form at the website. Send us your experiences and keep them PC.